of being able to put it up on the website, so people can go back at a later date and maybe just go back and go through some of the information presented today. So just as a kickoff, we're just going to do a quick poll, and Yvonne, you might just put up the poll there, please. Thank you. And it's very much around your experiences on taking on student placements. We'd be keen just to get an understanding on. So there seems to be a pretty good mix of what's going on, which is good. So I think in sessions like this, obviously, what we find is there's a real mix. Some companies who do it, get into it, and are, I think, see the real value on it, and other companies are finding out about it for the first time. So that's quite an interesting answer. So thanks, Yvonne. And again, we'll have a one or two maybe more polls over the course of it. Just to mention, the chat function is live for questions, and we will be hopefully taking, based on time, some time out over the course of the morning, maybe to come and address some of those questions and be in a position. So feel free throughout the morning, if you have a question on any of the presenters or on any of the topics, please put them in the chat and we'll get to them hopefully over the course of the morning as well. So to kick off the session this morning, I want to thank Sean Donovan for coming in this morning, and very much around telling us about MTU, how they do it and what they do it, and then we'll follow that with Clodagh from UCC. So Sean, over to you. And again, it's very much around understanding what programs or MTU are undertaking, and the process around, if you're interested in working with MTU on a student placement, how it's done, the timings, etc. So Sean, over to you.
Thanks, Martin, and welcome everyone. And I'd like to thank Martin and his team for the offer and the availability of this presentation this morning. Just a brief introduction. My own name is Sean Donovan. I wear one or two different hats in the MTU. I work with Extended Campus Office, which is our pathway to MTU. So we have two faculty representatives in that office, and we're a gateway to all connectivity within the college and external partners. I also work as a work placement manager for the last 5 or 6 years, and it's great to see some of the names of companies on the call this morning. I think I've engaged with them either on site visits, work placement, sourcing, live cases, case studies, and various other initiatives. And another role, is that as a lecturer, like all workplace managers in MTU actually know the students, usually from year 1 and year 2. So they have a great understanding of each student, and their capabilities when it comes to year 3 for placement and for graduate roles, later on. Now, Yvonne has very kindly offered to have a spot prize, this morning. So I'm just going to ask 1 or 2 questions, And first question, who has ever booked a Ryanair flight on their website? I'd assume that is 100% will be the answer. The next question is, who ever heard of someone called John Beckett? Now, this is where the spot prize comes in. And I'm going to be very fast here now, Is there any replies to yes there, Yvonne? So no one can Google it or phone a friend. John Beckett was a 17-year-old student who designed the first ever Ryanair website. Now, ironically, Ryanair were quoted various figures, 250,000, 500,000, all pounds. We're in all money now. And Eddie Wilson, their HR manager, said, I remember a transition year student, a young student, who actually came to Gateway, and he was very good. They called in John Beckett. John Beckett said, grand. £20,000 was his biggest mistake, as all they charged Ryanair for their first ever website. So some people might say, taking on an intern, what are they going to bring to the company? They're young, they're inexperienced. John Beckett, certainly proved that wrong. Now, MTU, look, just general, look, the facts and figures are there, and I'm not going to bore anyone, with all those, they're there. So if we want to move to the second slide there, Yvonne, please. These are the 3 pillars of the MTU: teaching and learning, research and innovation, and a huge area for myself, is industry and community engagement. That's where the connectivity comes. See the bottom, leading, partnering, empowering, and transforming. Like, we kind of pride ourselves, okay, like on our connectivity, like our one-step approach. If someone contacts the extended campus office, and as I say, hopefully one or two people might vouch for me later on, okay, like in the panel, that we actually carry out the function. We take that industry and community engagement very serious. And the research and innovation, okay, can be for another day. Teaching and learning, core thing. And an acid test for any institution, okay, like is how their students perform when they leave the institution. And we're quite happy, okay, like to stand over the performance and the caliber of all students leaving the MTU. So if we want to go to the next slide, Yvonne, please. Again, some information on the graduate outcome surveys, okay, that we had, right? And you can see there, okay, like we find an awful lot of our students actually stay in the Cork region. If you look at right-hand corner there, okay, top right-hand, like 78% in the Southwest region, okay, like that's where they're employed. They tend to stay close to home. Now, the amalgamation of Cork and Kerry institutes, okay, to give us the MTU, again, is a huge positive because people who study in the area seek employment in the area and don't leave. So if we go to the next slide there, okay, because this is really what people are here for today. Our work placement program, okay, like is like we have it, I think we have it fine-tuned at this stage. You contact the extended campus office, okay, like the details are there. We would actually have a lot of follow-ups here, okay, like because some companies will contact us and actually, look, we're just tossing around the idea in our head. What do we do? So we would engage with them, developing a job description, looking at the duration. Now, the duration of work placement can be in most cases a minimum of 15 weeks. But we're finding more and more now, okay, companies are taking students for longer periods because students can go literally the second week in January. They're available up to probably the second week of September, which is, you can have a 6 to an 8 month placement. Certainly large industry, okay, like I want to take the student, okay, to really get the benefit of the time because the 15 weeks might be a bit short. So like important information, duration, location, again, with COVID and everything, okay, the hybrid model, okay, like has developed. In 2001, we didn't stop our placements, okay, due to COVID, and 70% of our students went remote and carried on. Our faculty representatives will match your needs with the work placement manager who will advertise the position. Now, we can advertise on our technology enhanced learning platform and our students can go directly to the host company. The work placement managers can coordinate the application process and interview process for you. And they're the point of contact throughout the whole placement because all our students, okay, like are graded. We don't have a pass-fail. So a student that performs well on placement, okay, achieves a high mark. There's a site visit by the academic supervisor as well to get feedback from the line manager or the supervisor of the student. And the student must also have a presentation for the work placement supervisor, plus reflective journals, final report, okay? There's a lot of engagement for the student. They just don't go out and not contribute later on. So like, there's the information there. Okay, if we go to the next one, Yvonne, please. And like that's some numbers there, okay, in areas. Okay, so like in our faculty, business and humanities across Cork and Kerry, nearly 1,600 placements, marketing, BIS, biz admin, accounting, agriculture, nursing, business. And on the faculty of engineering and science, 771 placements. And again, each of those, okay, like we have over 82 work placement managers who I think in total would be nearly 99% academic staff. So we have a work placement learning community within the college, and we have over 120 members of that workplace community. So we're moving all the time. There's also some graduate numbers there, okay, like nearly 2,600 graduates a year. And in the talent pool that's there today, okay, like it's important that that's looked at. Now, some people might say, what's the benefit, okay, to the company? Because the company is going to get a flexible and cost-effective solution to recruitment issues. The talent pool can be taken because we're finding more and more that companies are now looking at placements in second year for the summer, which leading on, okay, to a placement in third year, which in turn leads on, okay, to a job offer or a graduate role when they finish fourth year. The talent pool is tightening all the time. comments that students, okay, will come back with, because we've done a lot of surveys on our students. They're more confident, they become a team member, they are much more putting the theory that they learned in college into practice, and they're working with dedicated professionals who are growing their self-awareness all the time. We go to the next slide, please, Yvonne. That's the selection of some of the partners that we have. And that's just a brief selection, okay, of what we do. But the big thing that you want to take from today, okay, like, is that it's a win-win for both sides. The student is gaining experience, the company is gaining a new idea. And if we go back to my first example of John Beckett with Ryanair, you can see these students, okay, like, are bringing a whole new awareness, okay, new ideas, technology. I was on a site visit in a company up in North Kerry a few years ago, and the supervisor could tell me that the student was actually showing the rest of the office how to use a certain software application. And she said, look, we were actually going to do training on that, okay, like, and now we have the student, okay, like, who's yet to do that. So I think my 10 minutes is coming up there. There's just one more slide there, Yvonne. And that's all information for anyone who wants to contact Extended Campus. We support the collaboration, single point of contact, and that's our details on the side there. So feel free to contact me or Extended Campus. I'm sure Martin and Yvonne will share all the details there. And I think in just 10 minutes now, okay? So thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you, Sean. So that was really useful. And again, I think the key message from yourself is reach out. There are many programs and many students available to companies in a huge areas or a variety of disciplines. And again, obviously the Extended Campus email, which you brought up earlier, is the place to go in, and they will signpost you in the correct direction. So thanks for that, Sean. I know, again, just to encourage people with any questions, we have a few and we might touch on them once we come out from Clodagh's presentation. If you have any questions on what Sean has presented, or equally what Clodagh is going to present, please put them in the chat and we'll touch on those in a few minutes. So I might just move a few kilometers over the road from where Sean is based into the UCC campus, and could I ask Clodagh to go through how UCC do this, who the key contacts are, and equally how the process around engaging with UCC, what that process is, and maybe some of the timings around it. So over to you, Clodagh.
Lovely, thank you, Martin, and thanks to Yvonne for setting this up. It's lovely to be here today, and just a little bit of background on myself. I'm originally from Donegal, and I've been in UCC for the past 16 years. Prior to that, I worked in recruitment and headhunting before I came into UCC. So I would have a keen awareness of employers in the Cork and Munster region, looking to hire talent and attract talent into different roles. And my position in UCC has changed throughout my time in college, where initially I worked on a small number of programs, and that has extended and grown during my time in UCC. So from looking at the employers that are attending here this morning, I know I would have dealt with some of you and would be dealing currently with some of you as well. So hopefully this information will help all employers just know how to engage with ourselves and UCC, and obviously with Sean, and how to just reach out to us really and connect with us. So nice to be here this morning. So just the next slide, Yvonne. I thought it was helpful just to know a little bit about the structure of the university for anyone that's not familiar. There are 4 colleges within UCC. There's science, engineering, food science, business and law, arts studies, and social sciences, and then there's medicine and health. And within those 4 colleges, then we are supporting them from a careers perspective. So from my own point of view, I'm a work placement manager based in careers, but I look after work placements for the College of Science, Engineering and Food Science. And then we also have placement managers working in business and law and in the arts and Celtic studies and social sciences area. And we all share our information, we share our contacts very closely, we liaise with each other very closely as well and build up our connections. So just in relation to the colleges themselves, there are different programs that have, and different departments that have work placement, accredited work placement. And within the College of Science, Engineering and Food Science, for example, there's a number of placement programs there that we're actually looking to extend out on as well. Just if you want to move on. So in career services, we're supporting students, employers, and the academic schools and colleges. So we're working, with careers consultants, we're supporting them in relation to graduate recruitment and also with interviews, CVs. We work very closely. We have just recently in December 2019 moved into the building that's just behind me, the Student Hub, which is in the centre of campus, right next to the quad. The building itself is purely for students. It was built with the whole purpose of having students connected in the centre of campus. There's clubs and societies, careers is there, disability support. And obviously the main focus will be for students, and will, in the future, hopefully be having a number of employer events within the hub as well, where we can get students to meet employers and connect, employers with students and different schools within the college. So our remit, although we're based in careers, we link in very closely with the academic schools that we're involved with. We work very closely with students from first year, where we're introducing ourselves to the student population. In second year, where students have work placement, we meet them and prepare them for their CVs, prepare them for interviews. We invite employers to come in, and that's where employers can actually engage and participate with students as well. And the overall program, thanks Yvonne, the overall program for placement, we support 1,400 students in 31 programs in 3 of the colleges. So medicine and health is slightly different in that they have students that are going out on placement throughout the duration of their program, into placements that are shorter. Within careers, we have block work placement that's accredited, and students are going out on placement from anything from 3 to 5 to 9 and 12-month work placements. So there's a variety of different opportunities there, and it depends really on the employer needs. Sean mentioned earlier, some employers will prefer students to go out on a shorter placement. Other employers will prefer them for a longer period of time. It really depends on the requirements of the company. And obviously the program then, and where it can fit within the actual course of study. Within the College of CEFS, we support 17 programs and 490 students. Placement managers, as I mentioned, have scheduled times. So we meet students in second year to prepare them for placement, and third year we meet them in a class time in semester 2. We also meet them one-to-one to get them ready for placement in third year. In semester 1 of third year, each placement manager will also have scheduled times with students where we go in, meet students to prepare them. We do soft skills workshops on team building, communication skills, time management, social media. LinkedIn has become very important over the past number of years. I've seen a huge number of employers that connect with students and graduates on LinkedIn. So where a student may have, secured a work placement, they are building their connections, building their contacts for the future as well. So we do sessions around social media and LinkedIn, professional behaviour and workplace ethics. And these are all really to prepare them for the workplace. And again, it's part and parcel of going out into industry for a lot of these students. Particularly, through the pandemic, a lot of students may have been impacted not securing part-time jobs. So preparing them for the workplace is very important. Students also have access to LinkedIn Learning within UCC, which is another platform where they can gain additional skills, such as building on their Excel, building on IT skills that they may want to develop that they haven't learned about already in college. So just the process for anyone that's not familiar with how, to recruit a student. We use a system in UCC called InPlace. It's a platform that a number of colleges and universities in Ireland have recently been securing. It originated from Australia. Australia would be a country where a lot of placements and this particular employability model, work integrated learning, has been established and rolled out, and we're looking to build on that now. So with In Place, we advertise vacancies on this platform. Students can apply directly to your roles as you send them into us. The process itself usually starts around the summer months. So I think, you know, as an employer, it's good to try and connect and engage with us now around the summer months. For anyone who wishes to, you know, maybe come in and meet with us, the summertime is a great opportunity to do that and find out a little bit more about how the process works and how you can build, for example, your brand and create awareness amongst the student population as well. Students will apply for those positions when they return in September. So we actively go out looking for jobs and job descriptions in around August, September timeframe. Students will be applying when they return in semester 1 of 3rd year. And for some students at postgraduate level, they will be applying within weeks of them commencing their postgraduate qualification. CVs can be sent out to you, or we can also get students to apply directly. If you have your own portal where the students would wish to apply, you can actually have direct access to them. We can help then, as Sean said, set up interviews with you. Most employers, and definitely over the past few years, the feedback from employers has been that interviews conducted online via Zoom or on Teams has worked out very well. It's efficient for the employers. And from a student perspective, you know, it takes less time. They have an opportunity to come in, set up their laptop in the hub. They can do interviews on campus and then return to their classroom or to the labs or wherever they're working. So it is a very efficient way of recruiting a student. One thing I would like to flag is that once a student signs up to a company, if they are made an offer by a company for placement, they have to be happy to accept that offer as well. So for a lot of students, the first offer they receive is the first offer that they have to take for placement. So it is slightly different to recruiting a student at graduate level. And I think it's just important to flag that as well to you, you know, that we have a very short window to place all of the students that we have for placement. There's, as I mentioned, 1,400 students going out in block work placement. So we have approximately 10 weeks to place the majority of those students. And from an employer perspective, it's nice to know that once you've made your offer, that student is going into you in January, February, March of the following year. So the interview process is, you know, September, October is the busiest time. You know, for most recruiters, for most of the colleges and universities, it's the same. So again, you know, just to be involved and just to know the dates and timelines around there. So Yvonne, just the next slide. Thank you. So just to give you a snapshot of the different programs within the College of Science, Engineering and Food Science, which focuses on STEM. I look after programs, the computer science, chemistry, pharmaceutical compounds, food and nutritional science and data science. We work, Sylvia looks after biotechnology, chemistry, and then my colleague Linda, who is recently retired, is being replaced at the moment, looked after all of the engineering programs. So we work very closely together as a team. So that if you're liaising with myself or with Sylvia or in the past with Linda, we would advertise vacancies to any of the STEM students for you. So obviously having, you know, myself as an initial point of contact, and I can link you in with any of my other colleagues, whether it's here in the STEM area or, you know, any of the other programs that has placement. It's important just to have that point of contact. And also as a follow-up to this, I can send through the brochure with all of the list of programs with placement and the different durations. As Sean mentioned, you know, there are slightly different durations for the placement, depending on the program the student's studying and when the student can actually leave for placement. So for example, just to give you an idea, in semester 1 of 3rd year for computer science students, they are doing a full 12 weeks in semester 1. In semester 2, they do a short 8-week semester 2, and where they have exams, and then they're available for placement in March. So the students do actually have exams in semester 2 before they leave for placement. Working through the other programs, the MEng in engineering is slightly different. Those students are available from January. So they just have semester 1 and they're available to commence their placement then in January. So where you see any of the students that can commence in March, April or May, they do have a semester 2. if a student can commence in January, then they only have a semester 1 and they're available for placement slightly earlier. So just to flag and highlight the differences there for you. But again, if you have any queries, feel free to follow up with me. The supports that Career Services give to students is we do one-to-one careers consultations with students. We have a number of employability workshops and seminars. And this is where I would actively advise, if you are someone who would like to have your brand, become stronger within the student population, it is a great way of coming in and maybe giving a workshop to a group of students and getting your name recognized within the student population, whether it's CV reviews or providing information on interviews. We're happy to, have employers across the board from large multinational companies to SMEs. We're quite happy to engage with you. In recent years, we've invested in digital tools to help students have their CVs reviewed. We have Career Set and Big Interview, and it's a great way for students to, have feedback on their interview. With Big Interview, students can actually, learn about what it's like to answer interview questions and get feedback from an AI tool, and it just helps them perfect them. As we all know, interviews have become more complex in recent years, so it just helps them with that as well. Just the next slide, Yvonne, thanks. So just on other parts of how you can engage with us, we do have a big recruitment fair. Most of the universities and colleges will have big recruitment fairs around October. So just to highlight the time frame for you. So this year it will take place on the 4th of October, and it's going to be a hybrid model. So the first day of the event will take place online. And again, if you wish to sign up for the virtual recruitment fair, just log on to our website and you can register your interest there. Last year we had over 100 employers in attendance with 4,000 students engaging with those employers on the day. We're also planning this year to do an on-campus event as well. So the date for that will take place around the 1st or 2nd week in October. And again, all of those events and activities are advertised on the Careers website. Any of the vacancies that employers have as well can also be advertised on our website called Connect. So if you wish to advertise for a graduate, you can advertise this free of charge online through Connect, and you can initially contact myself and I'll put you in contact with Graduate Recruitment, who can get you set up on the platform. And then if you wish to advertise any future vacancies, your company is up there and you can advertise for graduates going forward. We can also advertise vacancies for employers on our Alumni and Development website. So again, for any experienced hires, you may wish, someone who's maybe out 3 to 5 years. We have contacts in Alumni and Development and we work very closely with them. More recently on our mentoring program, which is also another opportunity for, SMEs to get involved, where maybe you're an alum of UCC already and you'd like to mentor a student within the College of Science, Engineering and Food Science. And these are just 2 links within the presentation. I just wanted to pass on to you that, it might be another way for you to engage. You may not be in a position to hire a student for placement, for example. It might be something that you're thinking of doing in the future, but you might want to mentor a student just to get your brand and create that brand awareness on campus. Another way to obviously to contact us is through our Instagram, where you can do an Instagram takeover. A lot of employers it has worked really well. It's obviously talking to the student population. So you can go on and maybe interview one of your recent graduates on Instagram, take it over for maybe 15-20 minutes, interview the student that you've recently hired and let them talk about their experience with your company, with your organization. Students are really interested in very short, snappy content. They want to hear about the company, they want to know about your organization. And these are just different ways that you can connect with us. My own details are up here, or also you can connect with us on the different social media platforms. Sean also mentioned the Graduate Outcome Survey, which is done by the Higher Education Authority, and that's available on the Careers website as well. So you can actually see where all of the graduates have gone in the last number of years at undergraduate and postgraduate level. So conscious of the time, thank you very much, and I will answer any questions that anyone has. Thanks.
Loda, thanks a million for that. And you know what, we might pause for a few questions. A few have come in between Sean and Claude on it, and maybe just to the first one up that comes up on while you're on, Claude, is if you're looking to recruit a grad outside of the traditional August-September cycle, can that be done, or are the outcomes less successful?
So for example, we are continuously placing students up until the time that they go on placement. So for example, this year, I had students that the bulk of recruitment happens in September, October, November. Students go into exam mode, I suppose, around Christmas because they're doing exams just prior to Christmas. But we still are placing students in January and February. So, for example, I would have had a number of companies recruit students in January and February this year, and they have been very successful hires. Companies, small companies actually, that didn't have budget last year, but knew this year that they definitely were in a position to take a student. We're moving away from COVID, and for some companies, they didn't know if they'd be in a position to hire a student back last September, but they were in a position in January, and they very successfully, and the students that are currently there are working out well for those companies. So they would have been recruiting and interviewing those students in January and February. So it's not a case that all students secure their placement in September. So I hope that answers.
Yeah, so maybe I can concur with that, because we felt as an organization, we just recently took on an intern for kind of that 3 to 6 month placement, and like that, as we weren't sure what was the best model because of the COVID situation, but it was only in March really that we started, and again it was a very seamless process around. We got 5 to 6 CVs, we interviewed them, and it was turned around within a week, and we had somebody started. Laura started last week, which was fantastic, and it's worked out really well on our side. So maybe Sean, I'll ask it over to you. Do many students source their own placement, or is it always the college that sources the placement for them?
We have about 40% of our students source their own placement, but the important thing to note here, Martin, okay, is that even though a student was sourced their own employment, that position must be verified by the work placement supervisor. So it's just not a situation where a student can say, I'm going working for company ABC. The job descriptor must be, as I say, the boxes must be ticked and the learning outcomes must be satisfied. So that students do so. And again, as Claudia said, LinkedIn is a huge source now. Like in my group that I look after, their master's students, I would definitely have 30% of those students every year who source their position through LinkedIn contacts. But the academic supervisor still has to, tick the box of that role.
Okay, perfect. And maybe a question quickly for both of you, and then we can come back to more questions if we have time in the end. Just one thing that might just make companies aware around payment. What is kind of policy or what is good practice around payment when you're taking on students?
You want to take that one first, Laura?
Yeah, so normally we do get that question from employers, and we don't dictate that, the rate that companies will offer, but we do a survey each year on what the average rate is, and most companies will pay students the minimum wage or slightly above that. And I guess it has been in our experience that, students will talk to each other, and if they're applying for those vacancies in September, October, they're going to apply to companies that are paying the minimum wage or equal to that, because for a student, it is, 3, 5, 6, in some cases 9 or 12 months, where they might be living away from home, they're paying rent, they're paying their day-to-day living expenses as well. So if they weren't doing placement, I guess, they might have a part-time job to bolster that, that income gap, I suppose. So for most employers, they will pay the minimum wage or slightly above, but we do understand that it can be, it is, you want to secure, when you're getting a student, you want to see a return for the investment as well. So again, it is up to the company what they advertise, but if a placement is unpaid, we would advertise it as an unpaid placement to students so that they're absolutely aware, this placement is unpaid, and maybe they need to keep the part-time job at the weekend in order to take up the placement as well.
Perfect.
Just to come in on that there, Martin, I could honestly say I think the days of the unpaid placement are coming to an end with the talent pool issues that are going now, because students are well aware of the job opportunities that are out there. And let's say successful companies or companies with an eye for talent have realized this. They're offering good, attractive packages, okay, to try and entice these students to come work for them. And a lot of companies will pay like a living wage, okay, and whether it is a wage or whether it is a gratuity payment at the end, okay, like they're conscious that students, okay, like are contributing to the organization. And especially today when students want to work for, let's say, it's like let's say in the green environment, okay, like the students are conscious of everything, like, and how the company treats its employees, okay, are very important, and students are well aware of that. Unpaid positions will be advertised, and as Claudia said, it's flagged as an unpaid position, but we will actually have students go on unpaid places and actually end up with a full-time job. No, so like it's showing huge initiative for a student to take an unpaid placement, do a great job, and then secure themselves a full-time position.
Brilliant. And maybe I'm just conscious of time as well. And so we might move on to the next, and actually Yvonne, just in relation to Dan, I think has come back to me this morning. He's been caught in a traffic incident, so he's hoping to get to us before the end. So I might jump ahead into Dan's slot, and hopefully if Dan can come on board, he can I'll take this slot for the period of time. So it might be just a segue into then is in, obviously to date we've been talking about student placement, and it's those kind of shorter 3 to 6 months. I'll maybe just do a very short overview on some supports available in particularly to SMEs for companies who are clients of Enterprise Ireland and equally clients of the local enterprise office around the types of supports available to take on graduates. And maybe just before I kick it off, I'll just do a quick poll in case, just how many companies here are aware of supports under particularly the Grad Start support that's available for companies to take on graduates. So Yvonne, can you put up the poll there, please? Yeah. Very good. So again, so I'm definitely doing an education job here this morning, I think, as part of this program, which is good to hear. So this is one of the so sorry. So I think the results are coming up there now. So so definitely this is one of a really interesting program, and you might go to the next slide, please, Yvonne. Sorry, so it's around what we call our Grad Start program. It's very much around supporting the graduate as much as it is supporting the company, and I'd probably like to call that out from the outset, because it's quite important that obviously in the current environment where obviously there's a demand for talent, this is a really interesting way of supporting companies. But equally, we're always mindful of the ethos or the rationale around this program being set up was very much to develop the graduate and to bring graduates into the workplace, and particularly into work with SMEs and work on the ground with those companies. So it's very much, it's a 24-month program. It's an online company application process. It's relatively straightforward. The supports available to companies are pretty good when it comes to employment grants. Equivalents, it's a 50% of the salary up to 30,000. So if you're paying the student 30,000 a year, we can support that over a 2-year period. So that's 15,000 per year for 2 years. So you can get up to 30,000 grant aid under that. And there is an additional top up available for language. So if you're hiring a student with language capabilities to supporting a business need around language, we can actually top that up to a 70% rate rather than a 50% rate. Again, it's around supporting that internationalization of companies, and one of the areas of focus, I suppose, particularly from Enterprise Ireland as well. So just around the criteria, and I know I've got a couple of questions in that I'll answer maybe over the course of this as well. It's around recruiting a graduate that has to have a minimum of level 6 qualification from a quality or from a framework in Ireland or beyond, and I'll come back to that in a second. And again, the graduate must have graduated within the last 4 years. So if they've graduated beyond 4 years, they're not eligible from that perspective. So you can go to the next slide. Equally, the local enterprise offices, which deals with companies typically less than 10 employees, and again, we work very closely with the local enterprise offices, also have this support available. And the main things to call out really there is you have to have a minimum of 5 employees to be eligible. You have to, and the other side of it then is you have to be a registered company in that manufacturing internationally traded services area. So that's the main criteria around that. Again, it's a great support, again, particularly for the smaller businesses. If you're a client of the Leo, it's worth checking into that and looking at a way you can support your business and equally get a graduate immersed in micro enterprises in the region. Can you go to the next slide, please? Thanks. So as I said, from the graduates perspective, I touched on earlier, they must hold a minimum level 6. They must have graduated in the last 4 academic years. And in relation to the visa requirement, they must have a minimum of 1-year work visa to work in Ireland and an option to renew that visa. So obviously it's a 2-year program. So that's critical. Now I did get a question, and I might address it here around being able to support graduates on permits. So it's slightly technical, but the advice I would give, and having seen this recently, is the first thing I would do is, if you are interested in availing of this support, I would contact your Enterprise Ireland advisor who's working with you, or reach out to myself if you haven't dealt with Enterprise Ireland in the recent past, and we will see who that might be. The one thing I would do is I would recommend getting this support approved first, particularly if you're looking at that permitting or international student or international graduate. The reason I say that is if there's 2 processes at play here. There's obviously an application for support here, but equally there's an application for the permit, the work visa associated with that graduate. I would recommend that you get the graduate support approved first. You don't have to detail the name or individual person. It's really around the role. It's not about the name of the individual. And then if that person who's filling that role comes from international, you have a separate process around permitting, which you need to go through. The reason I say to do it in that order is, if you're doing the permitting process first, you have to do paperwork around a contract. And that contract has to be done and put in as part of your paperwork process for permitting. So that means then that you're technically contracting a person prior to a grant application, which runs into difficulty around eligibility. So my recommendation is put the grant application in first and then do the permitting process afterwards. But once they meet the criteria around level 6 and are working here in Ireland, they are eligible for support under the scheme. Sorry, I spent a bit of time with that, but I think there was a question came in on that. Can you move to the next slide, please, Yvonne? So as I said, from a graduate perspective, look, it's, as I mentioned, this scheme is as much about the graduate as it is supporting the company piece. And it's a wide-ranging opportunity for companies. And again, SMEs, we're really keen for SMEs to be. Large companies do this through their own graduate program. So we feel, SMEs are missing a trick if they don't look at this. It's a really way of getting, high quality talent that's in our graduate system at the moment. So it's a real way of number one, engaging with those companies, and equally the support here will help them maybe take some of the pain associated with bringing those people on board from a cost perspective from day one. But it's really important, I think, that there's a defined role for the graduate, and that there is somebody in the organization who is going to work with them. This is an equally, I would say, as important with the internship piece we discussed earlier as it is with the graduate piece, because it's important. I think the more you can work closely with the graduate and bring them on the journey with you, I think the better returns you will get from that perspective. And then obviously on the competitive salary scale, because it's being funded, you're in a position to probably offer competitive salary scale to be able to attract high quality candidates for these posts. So from a company perspective, obviously, I think, look, a lot of it has been touched already here. It's that kind of the new thinking, new innovation, technology, software, social media, depending on the skills you're looking for. And again, there's a real opportunity to bring that fresh thinking, really innovative thinking to the company. And again, our Grad Ireland website is another way of being able to advertise graduate positions. So if you go into gradireland.ie, it covers both the graduate positions and equally links you in with some of the colleges around the country as well and what they're doing from that perspective. Can you go to the next As I touched on earlier, if there is a language proficiency needed, and this is very much around companies hiring someone with a language skill to be able to support their internationalization or their export agenda. Again, just once they're a native speaker or they hold a diploma from a language perspective or have lived in that country for a minimum of 6 months. So there is a criteria that has to be met to get additional supports. But again, if you are looking at those areas, there is up to 70% support. So that's 21,000 per year on a 30,000 salary grant age, which is very attractive over a 2-year period. So as I mentioned, the Grad Hub is the best source really from a centralization perspective from ours. It's an online application. It's relatively straightforward, but I would encourage before anyone makes an application that they reach out to either their local enterprise office or their Enterprise Ireland contact around progressing this, because like everything, there are certain T's and C's associated with it, but in the main, it has been a very positive support for us, and we've seen a huge uptake, particularly in the last 12 months from SMEs on this, which as the word gets out, and equally as companies are looking for solutions around some of the talent issues. So I'll leave it there, and what I might do is I think Dan has come in, so I might go to Dan, who I think will stitch a lot of this nicely together, because Dan is from Clover Hill, a client company of Enterprise Ireland, and he has worked very closely with the colleges on both intern programs and equally has availed of some of our supports on the graduate program. So I think Dan will stitch a lot of this nicely together, and if we have any questions then to tidy up at the end, we will come to those at the end of the session. So again, keep popping in the questions. If we don't get to them all, we'll try and we'll type them in the chat box as well from that perspective. Over to you, Dan.
All right, Martin, how are you? My sound is on, isn't it?
It is, Dan. And so firstly, I know you've had a stressful morning in traffic, so thanks a million for coming on board. And I know, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. And look, first of all, I do apologise for being late. And I would advise anyone that's travelling between Macroom and Cork not to do so. There seems to be two accidents. The Gardaí directing traffic into the countryside, and it's just chock-a-block. Now I hope there's nobody killed. That's more important than me being late. But I didn't mean to be rude, but I have a meeting with Musgrave's head office at 11:30, and I thought it was maybe wiser to go to Cork and get on the webinar. So it was fate. So anyway, look, basically, thank you for inviting me, and I'll just go through. If I can move to slide 2, what I will do first of all is how can I move right? I'll give you a bit of background to who we are. I know maybe small companies, sometimes they're all different sizes, SMEs and all of that. And we've come through the whole trajectory from starting from 0 to being reasonably medium sized now. So small bit of a potted history. I started the business in 2003. I'm from the Mill Street area. I'm from a farming background, and I had a bit of land as well at home that I always kind of wanted to go back to. So after maybe my first job out of college was in 1982, UCC. It was different times. Only 8 of us out of a class of 27 got jobs in Ireland. So I ended up in the lab in Galtymeats in Mitchelstown. It wasn't my choice of job, but it was a job and it was a start. And I enjoyed it and I learned a lot. I was there for 3 years. For the next 20 years, I spent in the ingredients industry as a technical salesperson, covering mostly the whole of Ireland with 3 different multinationals. And then finally, after 23 years like that, I got my desire to go home. We had a child on the way and so on and so forth. And like I said, I wanted to do my own thing. So I started a company with a partner. We were based in Cork. We were called Select Foods. And look, it went well. We got up to a couple of million turnover, but I would advise anyone in partnership, just be careful. It was like being married to the wrong woman, and we didn't really get on. And after 4 years, I decided to cut it and start again. And I sold my shares, took a bit of a loss, but it gave me the freedom, and it had given me an awful lot of experience. So basically, the company as it stands now was started in 2003. It's owned by my wife and myself. We're a typical hierarchical kind of a structure where you have an accountant, a warehouse manager, a transport manager, directors of the business, my wife and myself, and an accountant, good accountant. So on to the next one. We started in 2003. Basically, our aim was just to survive in the start. I had a dream to do my own business. I knew a bit about the ingredients business. We were very lucky the Celtic Tiger was roaring. We got money from the banks and all of that. So, but in 2007, I suppose we had to start thinking properly because everything came to a standstill, financial crisis, banks not lending, people not paying us. And at that point, I saw the issues with our business. So they would have been, we didn't really have good credit control. We didn't have an accountant. We were selling products on price. So we had to just rethink, fix all those things one by one. We hired a good accountant. We put up our prices. Our turnover shrunk by €1 million, but we started making money. So in 2015, we achieved BRC accreditation. And then in 2017, really the decision that transformed our business, we decided to move up the value chain, like become manufacturers. So we started manufacturing some of the things we now buy in and invested $500,000. At the time, it was tough enough to do because we were a kind of a catch-22. We weren't manufacturing already and we weren't exporting, so we didn't get any grants. But in fairness, look, we got it done anyway, and that was in 2019. It really switched on and was commissioned. 2020, I'm giving figures here, and I'm not trying to sound vain. These things are available online anyway in the accounts office. But just to give a picture of what size and what difference you can make by running your business differently. 2020, we would turn over nearly 10 million, and bottom line would be $500,000. And 2021, 11.4, and bottom line 0.8. This year, we intend to do maybe another 2 million on top of that. Some which is driven by inflation. There's a lot of inflation there, so your business will grow at the moment without doing anything because you have to put up your prices. But basically, we intend to go over the million in the bottom line if we can. So our plans for the next few years are to grow, expand. We're starting some work on exports at the moment and strengthen our team. So that's a bit of background. I just gave that in case there are businesses listening that think they're too small or too big or they don't have problems and all that. We've been there, done that, all that. So I think we're still around, and a lot of people in our sector are. So my experience with students over the years, in the early years of the business, the cheapest and most available thing were summer students. You know, they're just people on holidays and they want work, and they might need to do it to go back to their course with a letter. We found those cheap and usually good. I'm saying that now from a business perspective. The thing I did learn over the years is we were kind of too nice in the start. You take somebody local, it's a better idea, and it's better for the student as well. If you interview a few of them and pick the better ones, it'll be good for them as well. It'll teach them that going through life, you can't just rock up. You need to prepare and you need to be ready. So they're still there. We use them. We've had some very good ones. If I was to give any statistics about it, I would say 70% of them are great. Maybe 20% are a small bit lazy. They're doing it to get the letter to go to college. And of the 70% that are great, about 70% of the best of them are usually girls. I don't know why that is, but if you get a good girl as opposed to a good fella, the girls are actually very good. And that's just a useless statistic, but it's true. Primary degree work placements, in the recent years, we've had a few of them from UCC, one from MTU, one from WIT, and one from Tralee. And mostly from UCC, because I suppose it's my own alma mater and I've the contacts up there, but we're open to anyone. These are usually very good. They come for a couple of months. What we do, again, to make sure we've got the right one, for the first couple of months, we'll give them a sort of a poorish wage. In the start, we used to just give everyone like minimum wage, but then you get somebody who kind of won't walk out of your way and you don't want to be taking back the money. So we tell them the first few weeks we'll give you like subsistence. If you're good, we'll put you up to minimum wage or a couple of euros with it, and you can stay for the whole summer. So the person knows at the start, I've got to kind of prove in the first few weeks that, and again, I think this is not being hard. It's just you're paying somebody, and if they have to deliver the same as your own employees, and it's also good for them because that's the real world, so you're a student, and if you're good, you'll reach the top. If you're not, you probably won't. Postgraduate work placements, we've had a few, some very good. Again, this is the bit we struggle with in our own business at the moment. I gave the trajectory of where we're at. So now we've developed manufacturing quite a strong R&D capacity, quite a strong expertise. But we developed something new, and it seems to take us forever to tell all our customers, by the time it gets through the whole chain. because we haven't really time. We've nobody in marketing. We're not good at digital marketing. We have a space. So we had a postgraduate student a couple of times on that, and they really drive it on, and they're good. They stay for 3 or 4 months, but then they go because they're either going back to the country they came from if they're overseas, or they're going to Dublin to a much bigger company or elsewhere. So we find for us then, we're already after investing a lot. We've 2 QA people, we've 2 R&D people. We've to know at this stage add like a 50 grand salary for someone on marketing. We need it, but you have to balance, you know. So I think for EI, if I was to make a request to the colleges, there's good people in those, especially in the postgraduate ones or graduate ones, but okay, maybe it's because we're in Mill Street. To get a top-notch one, first of all, you have to pay a top-notch salary, and you're not sure, just because you're on a big salary doesn't mean you're all that good. You know, we have to see what they're like. It's a bit risky. Also for them, obviously they're working for money. They don't want to move to a rural town in Ireland for small money just to see if it works out. So I think I'm just giving marketing as the one that I've come across. That other companies will need a graduate or a person for some kind of engineering or some kind of other thing. It's just, I think in there, if you could get that person staying with a company for a year, there's real excitement in a small company. We put in there the experience we give to all the students we've had over the years. You get to do a bit of everything because we don't have a defined department, you know, but that's great for them. So it would be the same here. Somebody coming in for a year on a salary that they were happy with, that we could afford, might stay afterwards because you're into the buzz, then you're into the culture, and there's an excitement there. So that's my tuppence halfpenny. I don't know if I rambled on or whatever. So any comments on that?
So Dan, thanks a million for that. And as I mentioned, I think you stitch it nicely because you've been, you know, you've gone, as I said, you've even gone from the summer job right through to the graduate side. Just on the graduate, and just maybe on touch, maybe a comment on it, as I'm conscious of time now and people are likely to be going to the meeting. The questions that have been coming in just around process, and I don't know, you can comment on this, Dan, if you want, just on coming back to GradStart. So GradStart is an Enterprise Ireland local enterprise office support only. There are, and again, as I mentioned at the very start of the webinar, there are probably multiple other supports out there, to, you know, from apprenticeships to technology to fit to skill nets, training supports, etc., that we might come to over time. So there's many other supports there, but just on the GradStart one for graduate, it's very much Enterprise Ireland local enterprise office support. And the question that has appeared a few times was, it can only be, well, I would recommend you apply first and then hire the graduate. Sean, you've done something similar on your end around the quality person, I think, wasn't it? Or sorry, Dan, sorry,
yeah,
Dan, on the quality person.
We did. We had a quality manager on with the manufacturing expanding, and plus our normal day-to-day work on quality, and being BRC accredited, there's a good bit of paperwork on that. It was the very same thing. You know, we're a smallish business. We have a full-time QA manager on a competitive salary that you would get in Dairygold or somewhere else. So that's quite expensive. So I think a second person, big jump, but the business was starting to demand it, you know. So we were having more work to do without maybe the existing sales from that work still being realized. So you're in an interim period that it's quite expensive to add on another 35,000 euro salary. So that's where we moved. We got was a key person or GradStart. We got
GradStart in that one, I think.
Yeah, so that's been excellent, because that's, we'll say, a percentage of our salary for a period of time, and in that period of time we will have caught up. You know, our business will have grown, and it, you know, we did live bridged the gap where the cash flow might be tight.
And just to say that it's the position as opposed to the individual, and sometimes the person doesn't work out, so you might go and have rehire, but so that support still remains for the position rather than the individual from that perspective. Okay, so
Sean just has his hand raising.
Sorry, Sean.
Yeah, Martin, just one thing there, okay, just following on from Dan, okay, that look, a lot of SMEs today, okay, like, might be aware of Springboard. I know it is there for another day, okay, but like with the Springboard calls, the announcement should be coming out very soon, okay, so anyone looking to upskill or they can attract people, okay, like that. Like Springboard is a great opportunity, okay, like to gain, especially in the marketing area there. Now, like we applied for 80 positions for digital marketing skill upgrade, okay, for people. So like there's a great opportunity there. So look, you might keep people informed on that.
Yeah. And again, as I said, this is session 1 of our kind of industry engagement piece, and we are looking to do more sessions with, again, we'll be inviting everybody along. If people or companies have any particular content that they'd like raised, again, reach out to us. We're more than interested in hearing what that is. And again, we'll try and facilitate as much as possible around particular areas of interest that we can run events and sessions on. So again, reach out to us. Again, STEM Southwest website, there's all the contact details are on there. So please do come to us. And maybe to close the session this morning, firstly, just to sum up what I've heard this morning is obviously reach out to the guys in MTU and UCC via Clodagh and Sean and the extended campus there. They are really good at signposting you into the right area. They have their own areas of specialization, but equally they have the network as well to do it. What I'm hearing and what I've experienced from talking to industry is this is a good thing to do. This adds a lot of value in the main, and companies, I would recommend companies, particularly SMEs who haven't done this before, try it out, reach out as soon as possible. Now is a good time to do it because obviously you've heard around the process. They like to engage with industry over the summer period and be ready for the next cohort of students as they come into the system from September onwards. And fine, sorry, Dan.
Could I just say just one word there? You're encouraging people to get on that. So would I. I've been there. There's some great young people out there, right? And there's some obviously very good courses. They come in quite well qualified on quality and on R&D and just attitude in general. So do it. They're there and it's good for them as well. The only thing I would caution: do interview them and do tell them at the start there's a certain expectation and you'll get more money next month, because we did find in the start we'd be a bit relaxed, and you think that becomes so. I by no means am I hard to work for or anything, but it's just good. It's good for them and it's good for you. So there's great people, great actually. We've had some star ones over the years, but it's just keep it business-like.
Dan,
just to add to Dan there, okay, for everyone, Martin, okay, like hire the attitude and train the skill.
Yeah.
Okay, and like you'll do fine then.
Yeah.
What wise words of advice, guys. So we might leave it at that. So thanks a million. Look, I'd like to thank Clodagh, Sean, Dan for your contributions this morning. Look, it's really good to get that, and as I said, a really good session from that perspective. We will put it up on the STEM Southwest website for anybody who wants to look back again and go through any of it. And equally, just to conclude, I'd like to thank Yvonne for coordinating and managing the session this morning, which is really good. And equally, Laura and Kay on my own team who've supported in some of the membership and administration associated behind the scenes. So thanks a million for that. So we will be running another session again shortly in June, and we'll circulate that around the content and the detail of that session. So I hope you got value out of it, and we look forward to meeting you again. And please do check out the STEM Southwest website, and anything you can do for STEM Southwest or anything you can do for your local schools to support the STEM agenda, we'd really appreciate that. So thank you very much. Good morning, and I hope this session was of value.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone.